Alrighty, guys. Good afternoon to you all here. Hope you guys are having a wonderful, wonderful Wednesday. Appreciate you guys for watching this. As always, if you will, leave a like, leave a comment if you guys have anything, concerned, questions, etc., all of that, and we'll go ahead and kind of dive into this here. And we do have a pretty significant day for severe weather today, potentially on the table now. A level 3 enhanced risk has been introduced for portions of western and southern North Carolina, getting into most of South Carolina, getting into northeast Georgia for a damaging wind threat, where we could see pretty numerous wind threats today of up to 70 miles per hour. Couldn't rule out a couple 75, maybe an 80-mile-an-hour wind gusts today, but we are looking at mostly a wind threat along the east coast today, as we do have a couple microbursts that are going to be on the table. Those are those big downbursts of winds that have typically can produce significant damage if they do in fact happen. On top of that, just damaging winds in potential here. Not really looking at a tornado risk with today, so there is some relief to that, but the damaging wind threat can always cause some pretty big issues with that. There also will be a small hail threat with that as well. We're also going to be looking at a better shot at more damaging winds and a brief couple tornadoes up here from the northern high plains up into portions of southern Minnesota and Iowa, and then kind of looking at a hail threat and a wind threat as well with that, and then a marginal day along the east coast here. We're going to talk about that here in just a second. But other than that, we do have a pretty interesting day here, pretty interesting couple of days to go through. We've got lots of instability out there. The summertime is going, instability is kicking up. We're going to get these organized damaging wind setups. It does happen more times than not, so we talk about that a lot here on the channel. But other than that, we do have a pretty nasty complex of storms ongoing. Lots of heavy rainfall moving through portions of Minnesota, northern and central area, getting into North Dakota, getting into northern Iowa and western Wisconsin here. So be mindful if you're out and about traveling today that the heavy rainfall is going to accumulate pretty significantly. There will be a round of severe storms that comes in later as this lifting warm front lifts and allows for things to incubate later on this afternoon. So we'll be keeping you guys updated with that. I don't plan on live streaming today. If we need to live stream, we will. We'll kind of get on here and kind of talk more about that in just a little bit, but just be mindful if you guys are out and about today. There will be the threat for damaging winds, large hail, and then a couple of tornadoes can't be ruled out, especially up into the high plains there. So kind of something to mention here. I will just go ahead and update you guys on the SPC for today. We do have that level 3 enhanced risk for western and central portions of North Carolina, getting into western and central South Carolina, and then getting into northern Georgia just outside of the Atlanta area there. Slight risk in the yellow there outside of that, and then a huge marginal risk outside of that that goes basically from the high plains all the way down to Florida, and then a level 2 slight risk at play for the Midwest, the upper high plains here. Looking at a 2% tornado risk here for northern and central Nebraska, getting into northern and central Iowa, southern Minnesota. Wind threat today is 30, 15, and 5. All wind areas today are not hatched at all, meaning that just a better chance of seeing winds up to 70 to 75 miles per hour. So Charlotte, North Carolina, Columbia, getting towards Gastonia, North Carolina, Concord, Rock Hill. You guys are in that area there, central and northern Georgia. South Carolina and North Carolina have a 30% chance there within a 25-mile radius of seeing winds up to 70 to 75 miles per hour. 15% there in the slight risk. Same thing applies, and then 5% in the maroon. Then we do have a hail threat at 5% both. So the wind threat today is going to be interesting to watch along the East Coast here. We'll have to keep you guys updated on that. A lot of my friends and family are also in that risk zone back at home, so we'll have to keep them updated on that as well. But if you are in those areas, do be mindful. Watches will be coming out here pretty soon as those storms will initiate within the next couple of hours. We get to tomorrow there. We do have a lower day for severe weather tomorrow. Another marginal risk along the coastline here. Again, another marginal risk in the plains in the upper Midwest, and another one starting to enter the picture up in northern Montana. All of these are going to be wind and hail associated with, not looking at really a tornado risk at all. Less than 2%, but not 0. So there's always that chance that it could happen. You get a brief tornado somewhere. Wind threat at 5 and hail threat at 5. Not expecting too much for that tomorrow. We get to your Friday setup here, and we do have a more organized potential setup for damaging winds on your Friday here. Level 2 slight risk at play from Valentine, Nebraska, all the way up here into the Canada line, where we've got Nebraska, northern and central portions of South Dakota, getting into western Minnesota, northern and central North Dakota here at play for all modes of severe weather, with the damaging wind and hail threat probably being the more priority there. And then another marginal risk along the east coast here, back down into Florida for wind and hail probabilities again as we go towards Friday. We do actually have a hatched region here. This is more than likely going to be for hail or potentially for wind going into the weekend here as we look at Friday's forecast. We'll talk more about that in tomorrow's video. We also are looking at in the day 4 through 8 outlook. We don't have anything highlighted, but there probably will be day-to-day severe weather continuing through much of the next week period here. As we get into the 4th of July, we'll continue to see kind of zonal flow, lots of instability out there, so that does promote the damaging wind and the hail threat day-to-day. So not a lot of people will see it, but some people will, so just be mindful. We actually had a report yesterday that 18 people got struck by lightning yesterday in South Carolina in a lake. So when you guys hear thunder or see lightning, please leave and go indoors. Don't be outside in the water. Don't be interacting with that stuff, because you can get struck by lightning. It can happen, and ultimately at the end of the day, it can kill you. So be mindful of that. If you are in about these areas that do see thunderstorms, just better to be safe than be sorry. So we'll have more of an update on that situation that happened later on in the stream, or later on in future videos and in stream. So Just kind of heartbreaking what we saw out of South Carolina with that yesterday. Just be smart about it, guys. Y'all know better than that. Other than that, though, like I said, here's the future radar here. What we're going to be seeing here over the next couple of hours across the Midwest here in the Upper Plains. Scattered morning time convection will be lifting. We'll see a warm front lift, and then we'll see clusters of storms, maybe a bow echo line of storms try to develop here, getting into the Midwest, the plains here, Iowa, southern Minnesota, eastern North Dakota, South Dakota here, getting into portions of Nebraska as well. Could see a couple of brief isolated tornado potential here between about 3 p.m. and about 8 p.m. And then after that, mostly damaging winds and large hail are going to be the primary threats. And then this lifts, and then we're out of here with another line of storms developing going into tomorrow. And we'll kind of talk about what that looks like here in just a second. I do want to go ahead and go to this mid-Atlantic here in the East Coast, kind of talk about what we're going to see over here. Lots of supercells are going to pop up. You guys can see these kind of just beans pop up. You see these darker colors that are kind of embedded here. These are strong microbursts, and we get these a lot this time of the year when we got a high pressure associated with lots and lots of instability, high dew points. So we do need to watch very closely here today. If you get a microburst, you can get some pretty significant damage out of it. They cause significant damaging winds most times than not, so that's why that 30% enhanced risk has been introduced here to western North Carolina, southern North Carolina, and getting into North Carolina and South Carolina and Georgia. And then this is really a daytime driven event. By the time the sun sets by around midnight tonight, we're looking at mostly pretty much nothing existing. So this is going to be between about 1 o'clock this afternoon here Eastern time through about 9 to 10 p.m. And then this will kind of fall apart. And then tomorrow we'll have another round of storms pop up again. You can see thunderstorms building around the high pressure system as it continues to work its way east and weaken. And then, we'll do the same thing again on Friday. So mostly general thunderstorms every day with a chance at damaging winds and microbursts. That's where those severe weather risks are going to accompany at. We get to tomorrow as well here. You can see supercells firing off through tomorrow afternoon. There it is. And then eventually a cluster of storms. We could get a little bit more organized severe weather threat tomorrow. And then going into Friday, we'll have to wait and see what the models do with Friday. But it could be another big day up in the high plains again on Friday. So just a big day in general today for severe weather for the damaging wind threat along the East Coast and up in the plains. Be mindful if we need to go live, we'll cover it as always. But if you are in those areas, be prepared for damaging winds up to 70 miles per hour. Most likely going to be the common thing over there today. Here's the upper level pattern that we're looking at. A little bit of a change in yesterday here as we see things progress here. Big dip in the jet stream with a little bit of a shortwave trough in place here. High pressure system still dominating. We're continuing to see storms around that high pressure ridge. A little bit of a low off the East Coast here, which is helping spark some of those thunderstorms this afternoon and severe weather. Just kind of something to be mindful of there. As we go into the later half of the week here, that low is going to lift, and what's going to happen is we are going to sit underneath mostly a ridge. We are going to have a ridge that is going to be in place through the weekend here. We'll have severe weather on top of that ridge. We should see general thunderstorms in and around most of the viewing area here underneath of that ridge. Shouldn't be looking at a lot of severe weather after Friday here. Mostly should be quiet in terms of the thunderstorm threat. Most of that severe weather threat should be up here in the northern and high plains area. And then as we go into next week here, things do change just a little bit. Depending on how strong or high pressure is lifted to the north, we could see a couple of disturbances of some cooler air, maybe even some low and severe weather going into next Tuesday, next Wednesday here across the high Michigan, Great Lakes here, getting up in the northeast. But other than that, we could see some troughing return at the beginning of next week on the west coast here with a high pressure dominating again with some little dips in our jet stream here. Some bulk shear could allow for some occasional isolated marginal to scattered severe weather threats. And then we go toward the July 4th holiday. And as of right now, stands, it does look pretty good going into the July 4th holiday. We're just going to have to kind of wait and see if we get an organized load that develops maybe on the 4th here, dependent on a couple factors. So we'll talk more about that as we go towards next week here. And then after that, we get into more of a cooler pattern, potentially where we see a below average temperature trend, maybe going into the second week of July here. Just a lot of things to figure out as we go into the month of July, potentially looking at hurricanes, tropical storms, all that stuff, etc. We'll get into more of that once we get back from our vacation next week. I will let you guys know we will be gone on vacation July 2nd through July 7th, so there won't be forecast videos. There won't be any streams. Just be mindful of that. If anything does happen, we will not be here for that. So just kind of give you guys a rough estimate on that. Here's another idea of what the next couple of days of precip could look like through the next 7 to 10 days. We'll go through the July 4th holiday here, and most of that precip is going to fall in spurts here in areas that see lots of general thunderstorms. So the Midwest here getting about 1, maybe 5 inches of rain. That's scattered in higher amounts as well there. And then down here into the southeast and the lower Ohio Valley, the Tennessee Valley, seeing about 1 to 3, maybe some higher inch length, all totals pushing 4 or 5 over the next 7 to 10 days here. So just be mindful about that. Like I said, if you get flooded roadways, turn around, don't drown. If you see severe weather, trust the warnings, listen to them, know where to go when you get warnings, go to your safe place as always. Other than that, guys, we might have a stream later on this afternoon. We'll just kind of see here. Other than that, be safe, be weather aware, and we'll see you guys in the next one.